So it's been 6 weeks since I've been using Ned's hemp formula. I use it during the day, and then I use the night formula before sleep. And what have I been noticing is that my sleep has been improving over 6 weeks. How do I know? Well, I'm referencing my Oura Ring. And in my Oura Ring, I'm able to see, wow, over this past 6 weeks, my sleep has not only become longer, but the quality's been better. My deep sleep has improved. And what I love about it, particularly in the night formula, is that it's not just CBD, but it's also different herbs that help promote sleep. It's a brilliant formula, actually. So what was the reason I chose to, one, put Ned in my body, two, try it for 6 weeks, and three, support it on the show is because if you go on the website, you're going to be able to see the company, their mission, their dedication to quality. You can go read the certificate of analysis for all of their products and their ingredients in there. It's one of the most transparent websites I've ever seen, actually. And as I mentioned in the past, I've spoke to the founder, and they're dedicated in helping people with high quality products. The passion is out there for education, and the ethos is there, and that's what the ethos is there, and you want to get behind a company like that, always. So why is Ned the top CBD? It's a full spectrum one, right? So you're going to get all of the cannabinoids in there. It's organically grown. You know how I am about pesticides. You know how I am about herbicides. Organically grown hemp seeds from Paonia, Colorado. They have a 40-degree slow cold extraction on their hemp flowers, so they're preserving the integrity. They have zero isolates, no synthetic ingredients. As I mentioned, go on the website and check for yourself. So full spectrum CBD is going to be helpful for sleep, as it was for me, but also can help with insomnia, right? It also can help as an anti-inflammatory, pain reliever, may help anxiety, PTSD, may help depression. It's a rich source of antioxidants, may help treat some more serious chronic conditions like Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, epilepsy. So it's part of my morning ritual. Every morning I'll do my grounding, I'll do my meditation, take a cold shower, and then I'll do my morning supplements, and the Ned Day formulas in there. And then at night, when I do my sleep hygiene ceremony ritual, then I'll use the sleep formula. So as a give back for being a Heal Thyself listener, you're going to receive 15% off of your first purchase or 20% off of your first membership purchase. Memberships offer many great perks. We know that. Includes 15% off of every single purchase. So go to helloned.com/DRG and enter the code DRG, Dr. G, at checkout. That's HELLONED.com/DRG. You're going to get 15% off of your first one-time purchase or 20% off of your first subscription order plus free shipping. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Heal Thyself, my personal favorite show. Hopefully it's yours. Taking the time out of your week, of course, and tuning in. Very much so happy to bring you this information. Very much so happy to give you that informed consent, give you that empowerment, and hopefully making some shifts in your life. A lot of good feedback from all of you that it has been very much so helpful. So we keep being empowered and we keep flowing with this. So today, I'm going to talk a little bit about something that is cheap, that is free, and that is very much so helpful to the soul and the physical health. It's forest bathing. So we're going to go into the benefits of forest bathing, and believe it or not, there is a lot of studies behind it that show some really, really powerful effects. So powerful that if we can bottle them up into a medication, I'd be a billionaire, I promise you that. So forest bathing, amazing stuff. And we have a very special guest. It's really nice when I can bring in my personal friends to come on the show. And Jessica Assaf is amazing. She's an entrepreneur. She is an empowered free thinker. She's also a CEO and founder of an incredible company. She has so much to tell, and as passionate as I am about chemicals in our system, chemicals in our food supply, chemicals in our cosmetics, and she's going to talk all about it in the way that she does, which is so empowering. So, without further ado, please let us get into this knowledge bomb. All right, forest bathing, so amazing, so cheap, so accessible. It's one of the best modalities for health, which we all have access to, most of us. Now, I'm going to really sell this because it's so powerful, because we see that it affects multiple parts of our system. It's not just one simple part of our body, but the whole system, holistic. We have to think about bang for our buck. What gives us the most bang for our buck and is at its cheapest? So something like forest bathing is really important. I truly believe that one of the most powerful healing modalities around is forest bathing. Now, in Japanese, it's called shirin-yoku. It's a Japanese word for this practice. And by practice, I don't mean literally forest bathing, not getting naked and using organic suds in the forest. It's being bathed in nature in the forest. Now, according to the definition of the Japanese Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry, and Fisheries, forest bathing means the process of soaking up the sights, the smells, the sounds of a natural setting to promote physiological and psychological health, right? So it's not hiking or doing an outdoor workout or going on a walk with someone through nature. It's literally being inundated and utilizing your own personal experience in nature, utilizing your senses to become deeply connected and mindful in nature. The more we are divorced from nature, the more we are divorced from nature's inputs to our biology. And the more we predispose ourselves to disease. By 2050, 66% of the world's population is projected to live in cities. And according to a study sponsored by the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, the average American spends 93% of his or her time indoors. We evolved with these very specific and consistent stimuli every single day, and our body has learned to adapt and thrive with these inputs. Less than 0.01% of our species' history is in the modern surroundings that we're used to. And the other 99.9% is living in nature evolutionarily with these inputs that our body knows how to handle. Now, what do you think happens to the body when these stimuli are inconsistent, almost non-existent? What inputs are influencing your health? Ask yourself. And is it how you evolved? And how do you feel day to day? How do you feel when you're in nature? Pay attention to these subtleties because you may find a tidal wave of healing the closer and more aligned you are with nature. In nature, we present with a stress state and we're given a restorative effect from the forest, from the plants, from the trees, from the flowers, etc. And it's creating a physiological relaxation and recovery response in our body. And this is leading to the evidence-based medical effects that we see in forest bathing. So what are some of the positive, beneficial effects of forest bathing? Well, it can be helpful for depression. 4 weeks of forest bathing plus cognitive behavioral therapy program for clinical depression. What did they find? Well, it demonstrated a significant remission rate in the forest walking group, right? The folks who walked in the forest at 61% over traditional psychotherapy, hospital-based group interventions, which are only going to have 21% remission rate. Big difference in the folks who are walking through the forest for 4 weeks. What about pain? We see a reduction in localized and chronic widespread pain. The results reveal statistically significant decreases in pain and associated psychological distress on pain scales. Really amazing stuff, of course, right? The mind-body connection. What about in cancer patients? Well, breast and lung cancer patients specifically, they had forest bathing through a few weeks, and the results showed statistically significant correlations pre- and post-intervention between green environments and individuals' experience of one, self-realization, increased emotional health overall, and increased sense of well-being. And this is a very important aspect to cancer patients, right? Because a lot of their not only recovery from conventional therapies in cancer, but also going through it all, the highest grade thing that we can do for a cancer patient is help them get through it mentally, emotionally. And you're telling me that if they're going out in the forest bathing, they have an increased sense of self-realization, increased sense of emotional health, and overall integrative well-being. That's incredible, right? So this is, if you have cancer, one of the first things you should do during treatment is get out in nature every single day, because understand that that's going to help you get through treatment and it's going to help you after. Amazing stuff. What else? The Public Health Journal in 2007, they took 498 Japanese residents suffering from acute or chronic stress, right? And these participants, those suffering from chronic stress states reported the greatest reduction in subjective feeling of hostility, depression, and anxiety. And that was a direct result of the time that they spent in the forest, with the more time equaling better overall mood states. What about sleep? It helps with sleep too. Forest walking to induce relaxation and improve general sleep-wake cycles in a population of 71 men and women they did the study on, right? And over the course of 3 months, they were walking through the forest, and the patients reported statistically significant correlation between increased sleep time post 2-hour afternoon forest walks and decreased anxiety, right? So they would do close to sunset walk, being in nature, being bathed in the forest, getting all of and I'll talk about the properties and why, but getting all the benefits, and then it's actually helping their sleep-wake cycles. So they come home 2 hours later, they're getting better sleep overall. What else? Some of the best data out there is on blood pressure, significant drops in systolic and diastolic numbers. If you have an elevated blood pressure, your doctor should be talking about 2 things first: diet and stress relief. And more importantly, asking you, how often are you in nature, right? Because we know that the benefits of blood pressure reduction in nature are so powerful. So before they put you on a medication, they need to start doing this. And the most interesting thing is these beneficial effects are regardless of age, gender, socioeconomic background, or even previous exposure to nature. The Canadian Ontario Health Study. They took a high-resolution satellite imagery, and what they found was that neighborhoods, residents in these neighborhoods that have higher density of trees on their street report overall less ill cardiometabolic conditions than do residents in neighborhoods with less trees. Interesting, right? What's the correlation there? Not necessarily causation, but what's the correlation there where we see, wow, if you grew up in a neighborhood, the more density in trees, essentially the implication is that there's less cardiometabolic disease or conditions that are coming from it, which lends to the fact, why are we living in skyscrapers and concrete jungles, right? So far removed from our natural state, so far removed from how we evolved, where now we're not getting the benefit of those inputs which we evolved with. So what I always tell people is, if you're sick and you're not getting better, think about your environment first. And if your environment is a concrete jungle and you don't see any greens and your feet don't hit any dirt, think about a change that you can make. Because really, one of the most powerful things you can do is get out in nature. All right, what else? A week-long trip in a nature setting reduced blood pressure indicators and cardiovascular disease-related pathological factors. It decreased activation of the renin-angiotensin system. This is in the kidney that increases your blood pressure, right? And therefore, it was reducing the workload of the heart for folks who had cardiovascular disease. It's incredible. So essentially, people with heart disease were getting benefits on all of their markers of heart disease, particularly blood pressure especially, in just being in a week in nature. So that lends to the fact, at the very least, if you live in the middle of New York City, find a way to get away into nature at least for a few days, a weekend, a week, every single month. Really cool, the autonomic nervous system balance, right? Autonomic nervous system, you hear me talk about all the time, sympathetic, parasympathetic, right? The rest and digest is that parasympathetic activation that we want most of our days to go through with, right? We want to be activated in that. Now, there'll be a time where a car is crossing a red light and it almost hits you, and then your sympathetic has to be activated and you have to back up. But then you go back into parasympathetic. You want parasympathetic dominance in your body. So there was a study, 625 Japanese males situated in 57 forest sites and 57 urban sites across Japan, and it revealed that 80% increase in the parasympathetic indicators of heart rate variability, and you heard me talk about that before, while experiencing the forest setting. Physiologically, it's demonstrating that forest viewing or being in the forest or forest bathing is more effective in reducing stress indicators than those who were living in urban environments, as I mentioned, concrete jungles. So essentially, 80% increase in your parasympathetic nervous system when you are in nature versus in an urban environment. We also see improved overall mood states, improved overall immune function, right? I'm going to mention that later a little bit, but what else? Salivary cortisol. Salivary cortisol, an indicator of how damn stressed you are throughout the day. Reductions in that, reduction in blood sugar. You hear me talk about, I did a whole show on just blood sugar and what that does to our overall health. Reductions in blood sugar. So that's what I'm talking about. Different systems in the body, overall health, just by being in nature, free. Incredible one that I was reading about is inflammation, right? We have inflammatory proteins in our body and we see them decreased. Interleukin 6, decrease. Interleukin 8, decrease. Tumor necrosis factor, C-reactive protein, interleukin 1, beta, interferon gamma. It's pretty incredible. We start seeing these inflammatory proteins start reducing overall. What else? Pulmonary activation regulated chemokines, right? Metalloproteinases, surfactant protein D. These are all inflammatory proteins that we need in the body. They're there for a reason, but are overactivated in so many of our inputs that we put in there, like food, stress, our environment, but overactivated such that it's causing inflammation in our body. But guess what? On top of that, inflammation causes oxidation. Oxidation is really what puts a lot of burden on our DNA. Forest bathing increased our inherent antioxidants like glutathione, superoxide dismutase. These are two massive antioxidants that protect us from inflammation's burdenous effects, which is incredible. To think that we can be in nature, we don't have to take liposomal glutathione under our tongue. We don't have to take superoxide dismutase as a capsule. We can literally go out in nature and upregulate that in our own body. So how do we forest bathe? All right, absolutely no phone, no devices, nothing. Preferably no people. Be in the forest, be in nature, take 5 to 10 deep breaths, walk very slowly, walk mindfully. Listen to the leaves crackle, listen to the twigs snap, and watch very, very closely and intently the details around you. Pay close attention. Look at the dirt, look at the ant on the leaf, look at the bark of the tree. Watch without judgment and just observe. Observation is the key to a proper and beneficial forest bathe. When you're observing, you're not attaching to judgment, of course. And if you're not attaching to judgment, that means your brain isn't running, and thus you're out of your head and into your body. And that's where you want to be for the most beneficial healing effects of forest bathing. Get back to your ears. This is probably the best tool you can have in nature. Evolutionarily, we activate our parasympathetic system by listening to nature sounds. That's why so many of these nature apps have nature sounds for sleep. So when you breathe in, focus on your breathing again, do 5 to 10 different breaths, because if you're in your head, you got to get back into your body, and breathing is one of the best things. Your parasympathetic is going to be firing. You should feel high in nature, right? That's your neurotransmitters being released. Breathe in those phytonicides. Now, these are aromatic compounds, think airborne essential oils, that are released by what? Plants. And this is amazing. Here's how we're connected with our environment. These plants release these compounds, and evidence is suggesting that they support our immune system. How? Well, 2 days in a row of forest bathing, we see an increase in natural killer cells. These are our white blood cells that help protect us from infections. We see a 50% increase in natural killer cells in our body and an activity increase of 56% in those natural killer cells. Incredible, just by breathing in compounds that are released by plants. You mean to tell me we're connected and intimately connected with nature? Of course we are. This is why I talk about environment so much. So getting back to nature is so powerful. One of the major things when it comes to our heart health, antioxidants, inflammation, immune function, stress, and mood. It's incredible. So you're probably listening or watching and asking, how long do I do this for? There's no minimum, right? What I always say is get out as best as you can. Let's say 20 minutes would be a nice number. Start with 20 minutes. A lot of these studies were 2 hours. A lot of these studies were week long. Of course, they're going to see benefits. Now, if you're really sick, right, you have heart disease, diabetes, you're really struggling with a chronic disease, then make it a point to be in nature often, right? Make it a point to stop everything you're doing and go out, get a cabin in the woods and live there for quite a while until you heal up. If you don't, like many of us, right, but you are living in an urban environment, think about, one, why you're there, and two, how much it's benefiting you, right? You're inundated with EMFs. You're not getting the opportunity to put your feet on dirt. You are in a high stress environment. You're out of touch with nature. Now, I'm not going to say that get out and then move into the country, everyone. No, not necessarily, But I am going to say that in the front of your mind should be, okay, I'm living in the East Village in New York, and I know the weekend's coming, but I'm going to make it my job to be sure that the trade-off of living in such a culturally diverse place is going to be me getting back in touch with nature. That's a trade-off. That's the cost of living there, right? It's sort of your job, if you're living in an urban environment, to absolutely make sure you're getting back in touch with nature and you're doing it often. So find that time, do it often, do it as much as you can, right? But don't lose sight of it, because getting back in touch with nature is one of the most powerful interventions you can make. And nature is here to help us heal. It's here to help us heal, to live symbiotically with it. And being in nature is such a beautiful opportunity. How many of you have gone into nature and said, I'm actually more mad than I was, I'm more anxious than I was, I'm more depressed than I was? No, it never happens. Why? Because you're getting all the beneficial effects that I just spoke about. All right, get into nature, forest bathe. Special guest, my friend is on. She's in the studio, and we're ready to do an amazing show. So really, really stay tuned to the special guest segment. You're going to get so much out of it. All right, everyone, today's special guest, look, it's very special when I can bring in some really high vibration people, successful people, but when I can bring in that, plus a close friend, it's a very, very special interview coming. Jessica Assaf. Now, listen to this. She is the founder of Prima. You may have seen them on my story. I'm always highlighting them. The most beautiful branding, but on top of that, the cleanest ingredients. I just found out they have a QR code in the back that you can look up the ingredients, where they originate from and how clean they are. It's amazing stuff. But on top of that, she's a Harvard business queen. She is a empowerment queen, women's empowerment queen. She is so dedicated to her craft and cooking and art and nutrition. And she's really changing the space of what wellness means to us, not just physical, but what is the whole holistic approach to wellness. And she's so empowered by it. And she's as crazy as I am when it comes to toxins. So we're going to get into all of that. Thank you for coming to the show, my good friend, Jessica Assaf.
Thank you for having me, Doctor. What an honor. What an amazing way to spend Friday.
I was just telling you, I was in the shower this morning. I was like, how should I introduce Jess? Because she has her hands in everything. So I try my best, but I feel like to describe you is, I don't understand how you do all the things that you do, first of all, but I don't understand how you do all the things you do so well. It's like, and is it driven by passion? Is that what's going on? Is it underlying, like you're just on fire every morning? You're like, you know what? I love my company. I love empowering men and women out there. It's just when I grow up, I want to be like you. This is what I tell people.
That's why we're so close, because we're mirrors. I think if you do everything with passion and love, then nothing feels like it's work. It all feels like it's an extension of who you are. Mm-hmm. And I love doing everything with the best of my ability, because that's just how I want to be remembered. So it's that zoomed out perspective too, where everything should be done in the best way possible. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And you really encapsulate that and embody that every single day. I see it. I mean, we see each other all the time. Can you tell me, and now this is amazing, you were a major advocate for clean, non-toxic lifestyle. And when you were up in San Francisco area, right? Can you tell me how you got into that? Because this is like really how it all started, huh?
Yes. And it's so interesting to think about, did I choose the passion, or did the passion choose me? Because I was only 13 years old. I was living in the Bay Area. I was living what I thought to be a really healthy lifestyle. I grew up going to the farmer's market every Sunday with my dad. That's how we would get our groceries for the week. And organic was really a way of life. It wasn't a choice. It was ingrained in the lifestyle of Marin County. But when I was 13 years old, I vividly remember walking down to the kitchen one morning and seeing the local newspaper, which was the Marin Independent Journal, was the name of it. There was an article on the front page that said that the breast cancer rates in my community had risen 60% in 8 years, and no one knew why. And I looked at that statistic and I thought, what is going on in my hometown? Because we're so healthy, we eat organic, but yet why are the breast cancer rates rising? And I, as a young person, had seen so many people in my life, their parents go through cancer treatment. I mean, you can see this, you see the pain. And I looked at that and I said, how is this happening here? And I felt this inherent desire to do something about it. I can't describe it. It was like a spark went off inside of me. And when I was 13 years old, I started calling up the hospitals because I figured, okay, I want to help change the statistics around cancer. I have to go to doctors. So I would call oncologists at UCSF Hospital and say, what can I do? How can I get involved as a 13-year-old?
I was going to say 13.
Exactly. I mean, I didn't have a medical degree, so I didn't really have a lot to offer them. But one doctor, Dr. Arthur Ablin, he said, get involved in a nonprofit. So I started doing my research and I found a nonprofit called the Marin Cancer Project. It's now called Search for the Cause. And the whole idea of this nonprofit was to look at lifestyle choices, environmental factors, and basically figure out why are cancer rates rising? Because now I think the statistic is 1 in 2 men and 1 in 3 women will develop cancer in their lifetimes. And it wasn't always this way. So I got involved, and one of the things we did is we went door to door. We did a survey because we needed to understand all of the potential factors contributing to the high cancer rates. So we went to 100,000 households in one day, and we asked Marin residents a series of questions around their jobs, their lifestyle choices. There was one question on the survey about beauty products, personal care products, cosmetics. And as a 13-year-old, I had just started wearing makeup. And to me, makeup was a rite of passage. The idea that you could cover up your zits and make your eyes look bigger and even go get a manicure with your mom, which as a bonding activity. I looked at that question and I said, what do cosmetics have to do with cancer? Because in my opinion, what is on the shelf should be safe. And I went home and I did my own research, and I learned that essentially it's a loophole in federal law that products on the market in cosmetics and personal care products, they're deemed safe until proven guilty. So it's innocent, they're innocent until proven guilty. So what that means is that basically most of the products on shelves that we put on our skin every single day do not have any pre-market safety testing or approval required to be sold to consumers. And as a result of that, there are a lot of industrial compounds linked to cancer and reproductive harm, also neurotoxicity, in the products that we use every single day. And Europe and other countries have banned thousands of chemicals, whereas the US, the FDA, has only banned around 8 or 12, a dozen or so. So yes, most of the time when you put a product on your skin, it won't necessarily cause cancer. But the issue is that the skin is the body's biggest organ, and these chemicals are accumulating in our fat tissues, in our bodies. You know this, but for me, it was a wake-up call because I said, wait a second, all of these magazines are telling us to wear products that are potentially harming us. Why is no one talking about this issue? And it's a universal issue for anyone that brushes their teeth or takes showers, which hopefully are most people, wear deodorant, put on cosmetics. Why is it that we're choosing beauty over health? And so that just woke me up, and I was like, I need to do something about it, and I need everyone to know about this issue. Because it's one thing if you're an informed consumer and you decide, okay, I know the risk of these products and I'm going to use them anyway with intention and with that consciousness. The issue is that we are unknowingly exposed to all of these harmful ingredients, and they're accumulating from so many different areas of our lives. And yes, you can't really control the quality of the air you breathe or the water you drink sometimes, or maybe the chemicals in your medication that you're prescribed. But when it comes to your skincare products and your beauty products, that is something that you do have a choice around. So that really taught me that in many ways, consumerism is activism, and all consumers deserve the right information, of course, in an empowering way, to make better choices to potentially avoid these things.
That's really powerful. As a 13-year-old, you're doing all this too. And even, it took me 28 years to just realize this. You were at 13 putting stickers everywhere, in the local markets going, don't take this stuff, it's toxic. But it's something interesting that you really said was that we don't know about that. And that's the informed consent piece, right? Because one of the overriding themes of this show is informed consent. I'm going to tell you some stuff that you may not like, but I'm going to lead you to water. You make the decision. And I think that that's sort of the empowerment piece that you're putting to people.
Exactly.
So all right, so you're in Marin County, you're 13 years old. How long are you doing this advocacy work?
I did the advocacy work for about 10 years. So I started with this organization and then went on to start my own organization called Teens for Safe Cosmetics, now called Teens Turning Green. It was a teen-led coalition. And again, when you're thinking about activism, you have to think creatively, because the issue is that I wanted this story told in magazines, but magazines are paid for by beauty ads. So they have other intentions there. And so the question became, how do we get press around an issue that no one knows about, that no one talks about, but yet affects everyone? So we started using creative activism and really events to drive media to then tell our story. And so we did everything from dressed up in prom gowns and combat boots to start a war against the chemicals in our makeup that was called Project Prom. We lobbied for legislation. We actually had a bill passed and signed into law by Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger called SB 484, which was not supposed to pass because the beauty industry has so many millions of dollars in lobbying efforts. And what we did is we just showed up at the state capitol. We skipped school. We showed up again and again until we could talk to someone, and we talked to the governor's legislative aide, and we said, yes, you have vested interest because these beauty companies are sending you huge gift bags and all of these great holiday gifts, but we're here to say, we are the teens. We are being unknowingly exposed, and we deserve and demand better. I also got my blood and urine tested by the Environmental Working Group as a part of their teen body burden study. So my blood and urine was sent to the Netherlands, and I now know the levels of industrial compounds, phthalates, parabens, heavy metals in my own body, and those are available online so anyone can see that I do have above average levels of parabens in my body. And to me, that's enough information to just demand change. And also just forced companies through, calling them, through doing events to reformulate, because the issue that really strikes me is why do these companies have safer formulations for other countries, but here, because we have less regulations, we are getting the more harmful product? Because what that says to me is it is possible to make a product a little bit safer for European countries, and this is true of Johnson & Johnson, L'Oreal, all of these big companies. They already know how to make a safer product. It's just obviously cheaper to use the industrial compounds. But all that they need is a little bit of consumer anger to get them to say, okay, I guess we'll just reformulate. And that happened with OPI nail polish, carcinogens, and Johnson & Johnson baby shampoo. So I've also seen companies with pressure decide to reformulate. And again, what that says to me is the consumer is the most important person in this conversation. And we just need to know so we can make demands to inspire change. So it was so eye-opening to be on the ground and watch this happen. But ultimately, what it showed me is that I don't want to be the angry protest trying to convince companies to do something that they don't want to do forever, because that's just exhausting. I was so tired by the end. It's really hard work. And the thing about nonprofits that you realize is that a lot of nonprofits are built by people with the passion and the purpose to get things done, but they don't have the finance, they don't have the money to actually execute. And that's why if you think about business as almost a form of activism, it's a way to have a platform, to have the funding, to actually get things done and create safer alternatives to people. So ultimately that led me to getting my MBA at Harvard and realizing that I didn't want to be the activist on the street forever, although it was really fun, and was in a documentary called The Human Experiment about it, did a big protest in front of Abercrombie and Fitch that got a lot of press. But again, I think that it becomes a question of how you want to spend your time and where your energy is actually the most productive. And I realized that I could create more change and inspire more people if I was creating a solution, a business solution.
Yeah, and with that energy, it's really powerful too, the solution energy, right? Because then you're opening more doors. The awareness, you can actually put out awareness while creating solutions.
Exactly.
And the platform grows. So then I'm assuming at this point, you graduate Harvard, you got your MBA, you're ready to go, you're all business. Where does Prima come in? And viewers and listeners, again, I love Prima. I'll use their, you guys have the brain fuel in the morning, the rest easy at night. You have the on the go. These are teas, by the way, tea packets. The stress supplement that I use every single day, the sleep
daily.
Supplement, the daily one I use every single day.
Tight.
Wait, even the face stuff. Yes. I have the skin balm. I have the concentrated elixir. Man, I'm on fire from
no
this.
wonder your skin looks so good and you're glowing.
I've been using it every day. No, seriously, I've been using it every single day.
That means so much because honestly, we wanted to create products as clean enough for someone like you who's hyper conscious to be like, they understand, I can trust them. But yeah, it's been a journey. And again, building something is not linear. I can't even tell you how many times I thought I was failing throughout this process, only to realize in hindsight that it was just an intentional pivot in a different direction. But going back to cancer for a second, because my whole journey, my whole inspiration it all centers around trying to reduce cancer incidence in humanity, because I don't think anyone should have to go through cancer and treatment, especially if it's contributed by lifestyle products and things that we do that we could actually avoid. And I remember when I was in business school at Harvard in Boston, I am the biggest cannabis advocate. Cannabis is my medicine too. So I grew up in the Bay Area. There was always cannabis in the air and, walking down the street.
For sure.
And it was presented to me as almost an alternative to alcohol at a party. So people are always drinking. And in California, especially the Bay Area, people are always smoking cannabis.
Right.
And I was drawn to it by the scent, really, which is really around the terpenes. There is some therapeutic potential, even with the way it smells and how people like the scent of cannabis. So alcohol just never worked for my body. I, like you, am a health advocate to the core. So I like to think about everything going on and in my body as therapeutic, as medicinal. When I drink alcohol, my body just never felt good. So I was always more drawn to cannabis. But now, 10 years later, I realize I've been using it as a medicine this entire time to essentially regulate stress. So being an entrepreneur, not taking a conventional path of a real job with a real salary.
Yeah.
My life has been stressful for a long time. That's why my family calls me Stressica sometimes. Sometimes I'm Jessica, sometimes I'm Stressica. But with Stressica, because I always had cannabis in my back pocket as a wellness tool, it's almost as though I can see the stress, but I never let it hit me. I never let it hit the body. And we know now that's because cannabis modulates stress. Cannabis helps our body maintain homeostasis. So essentially, I've been using cannabis for 10 years. I brought it to business school. I was really the only one with a bong in my business school class, but it served me well. And I remember I was on the couch, and I don't know why I did this, but I Googled cannabis and cancer. And what came up were multiple National Institute of Health studies and multiple articles about the potential anti-tumor properties of cannabis. And it hit me. It was almost like one of those moments where it was like from a movie. I'd been working to try and get companies to take chemicals out of products that were potentially linked to cancer. I was using cannabis this entire time. And then suddenly, now there is this potential link between the medicinal properties of cannabis and cancer. So to me, it was one of those full circle moments where I was like, wait a second, is this it? I found this woman, Constance Finley, in the Bay Area, who essentially created a medical protocol using high-grade cannabis oil. It's called Rick Simpson oil. And it potentially was putting people's cancer into remission with a few other healing modalities, of course. It's not just cannabis. And again, that was a moment where I was like, wait a second, is cannabis the answer we've been waiting for? Around the same time, I was also doing research, and I learned that across all U.S. industries, the cannabis industry, this was in 2016, still does have, but not to this extent, the highest percentage of female executives compared to any other industry. And I sat with that for a second. I was probably high during this time. And I thought, wow, here's this female plant. Because we only use the female plant for the therapeutic potential. The pollen in the male plant counteracts the medicinal potential. Here's this female plant with the potential to heal the world that also is sparking the first potentially female-led billion-dollar industry. So I thought for a second, is cannabis the new feminism? Is cannabis the first opportunity women have to design, build, and lead an industry from scratch that could potentially heal the world with no glass ceiling, or what we say is grass ceiling? And so that inspired a cannabis community I started called Cannabis Feminist, because I thought, wow, if I could help inspire and mobilize a group of female entrepreneurs in this new space, maybe this is the first time women could be leading a billion-dollar industry. And so I just basically put out an Instagram. I felt called to move to California because I saw in the future that cannabis was going to be legalized recreationally. I could see that. And so I just moved my entire life to California, got a place in Venice, and started building a cannabis community for women. I had no idea what I was doing. I was self-funding the startup. I was living month to month.
Yeah.
You know, my parents were like, "You are Stressica." And I was like, I got the cannabis. The stress doesn't even hit the body. Like, just keep going. You know, sometimes you're building something and you don't really know the outcome until after.
For sure.
Now I realized that I was just doing market research for 2 years. I wasn't failing. I wasn't stalling my salary or anything like that. I was simply learning from the plant and learning and figuring out what I was going to do with it. And so I spent 2 years really on the ground hosting events. And that is when I was reconnected to Christopher Gavigan, who had just finished building the Honest Company with Jessica Alba. And he had heard about my events. And we had been connected years ago because we were both in health advocacy. We met at Cafe Gratitude. And I was like, this is it. We're building essentially the Honest Company for CBD with our third co-founder, Laurel. So
wow,
it was just a series of events. You know, I always like to think there must be some good energy at Cafe Gratitude, but really it was just all of the work and the struggle and the pivots and the falling on your face and the living month to month. All of that is a part of this. And so.
Yeah, super inspiring to hear the bird's eye view of that story, right? Because at no point was there any coincidence. Everything was tied in, and you know, we talk deep a lot, and I do believe we all have soul purpose, and it manifests differently with different skills and tools with different people. And I think that through the cannabis industry, you know, you had that aha moment on the couch. It was like, whoa, 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 whoa! Like you kind of heard your calling, like you said, it was like a movie. And in those moments, you hear this calling, and it just leads you to this incredible place. So you know now you have you have two co-founders, right?
Yes.
And you start Prima. And I remember it's so interesting. My first exposure to Prima was at this event 2 years ago.
Wow.
And you brought it, and you know you were making all these elixirs, right? And behind the bar, it was like all these natural elixirs, some lavender ones and orange peel ones. And I drank two, and I go, whoa, like I feel so relaxed right now. I was like, what did you guys put in these elixirs? And just that. I go, what company is this? And we started talking. You don't remember me. But then we met again a few years ago. But it's really awesome that that you've brought sort of the way you've tied your life purpose and manifested, you embodied it into a company. With now it's a piece of everything, non-toxic, just like your passion. And it's got the cannabis aspect. It's got the healing properties. It's incredible. So now you created this, and where are you at with the company right now?
It's amazing. Actually, yesterday was our 2-year anniversary from launching our website, because we launched with just education first.
Yeah.
And all of this content that I poured my heart and soul into, some of our closest friends have stories on the website. And the intention there was, it's so interesting to build a brand today, because in the absence of religion, a trusted medical system, brands are almost best positioned to provide that source of philosophy and conviction and purpose for people, which is a lot of responsibility, but at the same time, so much opportunity. And my two co-founders and I were all purpose-driven. We all lead with passion. This is truly, we're living our legacy. It's not a job for us. This is our life. And we wanted to build a brand that was the deepest expression of our values and our vision. And so our first task was really to democratize health and democratize health education. And what that means to us is really abiding by the World Health Organization's definition of health, which is a complete state of physical, mental, and social well-being. So when you think about the mental, the emotional well-being, what does it mean to really be well? For us, part of that means having access to information that helps you realize that a lot of the best things you can do for yourself are free. Sleep, water, movement, community, all of those aspects of health. You don't need to order something online to access better health there. Sometimes even breathing, sometimes, eye gazing with your dog or cat.
Oh,
and so these things, you don't get taught that in school. You don't even get taught that in medical school. So how do you create content and stories that help people feel seen and help them feel like they belong? So that was my task. I created about 80 pieces of content, breaking down the human experiment, the highs, the lows, and everything in between. What I mean by that is sharing stories of what it's like to go through childbirth, have a miscarriage, have an abortion, be the only Black girl in Topeka, Kansas. Like all of these moments where we feel so alone, if you can share that story and own it, more people are able to say, wow, I'm not alone. Wow, we're all the same. We're all mirrors for each other. And so much about this life is alienating and isolating, even the past year. So much of our world is, around digital addiction and loneliness and stress. And all of those experiences make us feel like we're the only ones dealing with these things. So we launch with stories, and of course science too, because we need the science. But a lot of it was the heart and soul. So we launched with just content. And what that also allowed us was more time to develop the products. So we're able to start building community with the stories while buying in a few more months to launch the 3 first products. We also designed our company as though it is our legacy, to thinking about every aspect, not only to create essentially a guide for other people to build companies, but also a way for us to be remembered, because Prima will probably and hopefully last longer than we will. And that's such a beautiful way to think about it. If you're thinking, how do I want to build this to essentially create a guide and a roadmap for other people? So we thought about building Prima with sustainability in our DNA. And what that meant was we incorporated as a public benefit corporation, a PBC. That's a type of incorporation that sets you on the path to become a B Corp, a benefit corporation, which is essentially, it's a testament to using business as a force for good. And they essentially evaluate every aspect of your supply chain, packaging, team culture, everything. And when you are a certified B Corp, you meet those standards. Because the other issue is that because companies are meant to sell products and provide purpose and give you, a larger vision for life, it shouldn't be the company telling you that their products are safe. We need third-party validation. So we believe that we are truly creating an industry-defining set of standards for other companies to follow, and that's everything from being a B Corp and a public benefit corporation to being the first CBD brand that's verified by the Environmental Working Group, the same organization that tested my blood and urine when I was 15 years old. How I know is now really, and they have Skin Deep, which is one of the only databases available besides, Think Dirty and others to really understand product safety from a third-party unbiased perspective. We're also certified glyphosate residue-free by the Detox Project. Again, glyphosate is not something you think about when you think about skincare, but if we're using plants, and all plants in the US, a lot of them are sprayed with Roundup, and glyphosate is a byproduct of Roundup, you have to test for that. Putting a QR code on every box so you can pull up the batch test results. Just really building this with transparency and health and safety as our number 1 and number 2 and 3 priorities. So it's been so incredible to just build this the right way with the right intentions. And when you have health as the top of your hierarchy of needs, and every decision is so easy because it's not about profit. It's about protecting the health of the consumer first. And also even teaching our investors what that means. So we're so excited to have a line of 16 products across 3 categories: skincare, body care, and supplements. And we use CBD from hemp, no THC, but we also believe that CBD is almost the gateway herb. In the same way that people thought marijuana was the gateway drug, maybe CBD, because it's so hot, can open up the door for other functional botanicals to be understood and used. So just as we elevate CBD, we also elevate other active botanical plants, therapeutic plants that can help you feel better in your body. So it's amazing to look at the products and be like, this is an extension of my identity and everything I believe to be true. And so it's almost like I feel like they're my children, like the better version of myself and my partners and our team. And it's just so amazing to be able to share these products and help people feel better pretty instantly.
Yeah. It's funny. This is why I say I want to grow up to be like you, because I'm such a believer in creation out of nothing. Right. And what we see are boxes in front of us for all the viewers. There's boxes and there's a lotion in front of us. It's literally the tangible creation of you, right? Of your beliefs, of your approach to life, of your passion. And it's in a box, and it's in a cream, and it's in a powder satchel,
Yep.
But it's pretty incredible that, and I'll tell you right now, what the world would be if every company had that much passion for the people, for consumers first, then profits.
Exactly.
You know, and both should be high vibe and thriving, you know,
Yep.
and I love that. I love that we're doing that. And it's true. The synergism of, and I notice it for sure on the teas, is, you know, it's not just CBD in there.
Right.
It's a mix of everything. And it hits. It hits, you know.
It takes.
We were there this weekend and our friend took the brain fuel and he's like, whoa, I am focused. I was towards the end of the night, I took the rest easy and I was like, I am like the most relaxed I've been in a long time. I actually snuck 2 packets in there. I didn't tell anyone. I went in 2 pockets.
Double G.
Yeah, double G. Yeah. So, but you did mention something really important in the intangible part and what we can build that are free, and it's community. And community for me means a lot of things, and I've done multiple shows on them. I want to know what community means to you.
Basically, access to mirrors that reflect both who you are and who you want to be. And for me, community has always meant surrounding myself with aspirational souls. So souls that I see and I say, I want to be like her. I want to be like him. And what you don't realize, because we all have confidence and ego issues, is they also feel the same about you, but that doesn't register. And community is such a source of health and happiness and power for me. I think I appreciate it more after not having community for so long. I finally feel like I have access to the humans that I've been waiting for my entire life, but I can only appreciate it now because of the depths of darkness and loneliness I've experienced previously. Because I've been in relationships, and I was in a short marriage where I felt this way. I felt more alone in relationships than being alone. But now being a part of a community makes me feel so seen and so alive. And it's that mirror, you know, it's that we're all mirrors for each other. And maybe community is always mirrored, no matter if you like the people or not, because they're reflecting things you have to work on or where you can do better or be better. So I think community is about mirrors and reflection, and also just it's so energizing and uplifting to have people that you feel like you can truly be yourself with and feel seen with.
Yeah, I love the mirror approach because, you know, I said one time, like, in your community, they mirror your greatness. They also mirror the things that you can heal and get to heal, right? So and you said pay attention to all those things, right? Like that you admire, but then the other things that you're like, whoa, like, you know, that kind of triggers me in that person.
Yep.
Right? Like
Exactly.
that's just as important.
Yep.
That's the gift that we get in relativity in people.
Yep.
But when you really find a group of people that really resonate, really vibe, man, it is the sum is greater than just the individual parts.
I know. And I love thinking about community as a reference point for your own healing.
Yeah.
For example, when we met for the first time, I don't remember you.
I can't believe that.
I was so in my darkness that I couldn't fully see what was right in front of me. And maybe you hadn't fully been hit with your community because community also, it raises you up, it elevates you. And so I honestly think I needed to go through a year of loneliness and isolation and darkness in order to be ready for this community. I also think about community as almost like a gift from the universe. Wow, you've done your healing. Okay. Now you're ready to ascend. Now meet your mirrors. And then together you can get even higher.
I agree with that. I mean, I did May, June, July. I mean, I did like 8 months of work, but May, June, July were the hardest months.
Yep.
And then come August, all of a sudden I'm meeting you and all of our close friends. I'm like, what is going on? Who are these people? But it's exactly that. When you heal those parts of you that have been asking for healing for many years, that you've been attracting opportunities to heal through people, places, things, situations, and circumstances. When you heal that, you change that energy that you give off, that frequency, right? We're all just different. I always say you can feel someone walk in a room, you don't even have to see them. And it's because their frequency is just so high, right? They're vibrating so high. And your energy, I'm energy, we can feel each other. So essentially my understanding is that healing that part of us, ascends our frequency. We start vibrating higher, more expansive.
Yes.
And then you start attracting like vibration. So interestingly enough, coming off of that healing, and you at the same time coming off the healing, and I'm sure all of our close friends coming off the healing, we just attract each other at like moths to a fire, and then we go,
Exactly.
"Whoa, you're pretty great. No, you're pretty great. Wow, you don't have much ego. You have no ego. It's incredible,
Exactly.
but empowering." And I kind of just put this out to the audience is like to find your highest community, you have to first find that part of you that needs healing, and then you heal that.
Yep.
And then you let community come to you.
Yep.
I wasn't searching for no community, but it came, which is incredible. And that's sort of like what I understand that you're saying too. You needed that year of darkness
Yes.
to ascend, and it's sort of like here you go.
Exactly. Here you did it.
Here you did it, and it's so
Exactly.
beautiful. All right, Jess. So what do you have planned for the future? You're always got, like I said, you always got your hand in many things. What can we expect from you, from Prima? Are you doing the Cannabis Feminist project still? Like we got to know. I want to know.
Cannabis Feminist will always be part of my identity. And so it's really just a platform for storytelling and again, trying to break the stigma of this industry. We still have a lot of work to do.
Big time.
We're on the coast, but in the middle of the country, they still think cannabis is poison and they're drinking wine and taking Xanax for therapy, and they need it more than anyone.
For sure.
So it's really trying to reach that woman in Peoria, Illinois, who's stressed out of her mind, doesn't think that plants could work for her, doesn't feel like she can feel better in her body. I want to reach her because she doesn't have access to any of this yet. So there's still a lot of work that we have to do. And for Prima, we're so excited to continue to expand upon our 3 categories because we believe that there is a product for everyone. We're not the brand saying, use everything and nothing else is good. We're here to say, what are you dealing with? Let's name your stress. Is it skin stress? Is it body stress? Is it mind stress? And here are some options. Do you want a vegan soft gel? Do you want a powder? Do you want a cream? Because the thing about stress, it's an epidemic today. 75 to 90% of all doctors' visits are stress related. But it's also a tool for empowerment because a lot of people think, oh, my skin's terrible. It's never going to look better. Maybe your skin's just stressed. Stress is normal. We all deal with it. And there are tools that you can access, from your computer that could help. So it's just getting Prima into more hands and helping people realize that they don't necessarily need to go to outsource their trust to feel better today. Our whole mission is to help people feel better every day. So with Prima, we believe we have the best products, the best tools. Now it's just about getting in more doors, in more homes, and helping people feel better. And personally, because of community, this is another aspect of community. For me, community has sparked acceptance. Acceptance with my story, my highs, my lows. And now I just feel so compelled to share my experiences to help people either avoid the mistakes I've made or get through, our shared experiences we all deal with. So I really just want to help people. I had a call earlier today where these 2 passionate female founders wanted to know about our experience raising money and what you should do and shouldn't do. And I think that's why we're here, to use our own experiences to help other people reach their potential. And our other mission here is to also change the outcome of stress because stress causes a ripple effect. If I'm stressed and I put that on you, then it's contagious. But passion is also contagious and feeling good is also contagious. And that's why our community and the friends that we have, it's so electrifying to be around them because can you imagine what people could do in this world if everyone felt so good in their bodies and their minds? I mean, I could only imagine. So that's really the work that I want to do personally and professionally to just help people establish that contagious lifestyle.
Oh, I love that, man. I am on fire. I'm uplifted. I'm ready
It's
to
contagious.
go. See, it's right. I felt that. Sensitive or not, you're gonna feel that contagiousness on stress or contagiousness on passion and fire.
Choose it. Pick it, pleasure or pain.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
then share that with the world.
Exactly. I love that, Jess. So where can the viewers and listeners find you or Prima or anything?
So you can check us out at prima.co. It's www.prima.co. We're Prima on Instagram, on other platforms. I'm Jessica Assaf on Instagram and Cannabis Feminist, so find me there. And honestly, I'm such an open book. And again, I want to use my story to help others. So I also say email me, jessica@prima.co. Let's have a conversation.
Yeah, and you'll answer, and you'll be in it.
I will, exactly.
You are so passionate about it. I thank you for being in this world, doing what you do. Your story really resonates with me, especially on the toxins. You know I'm crazy like that too.
Yep.
But what you're doing in this world is something that I really believe to be true passion, to be true alignment, and you're using your skills and your story and your life experiences to reflect that in what you do. And it's incredible, Jess. And I got so much love for you.
Oh, I feel the same. And we're such mirrors for each other.
Amen.
So thank you.
Amen to that. You're welcome. My friend Jess was on fire. Look at that. I told you I want to grow up to be like her. She is on fire. I'll tell you why. Changing the game, changing the face of empowerment, changing the face of what it is to be a company that is transparent, changing the face of what it is to have companies look up to how powerful they can change your life, and putting the customer first. And you heard it from her. Amazing stuff. Thank you so much for joining the show. Again, as always, rating, reviewing, subscribing. I got so much love for you. I can't wait to see you next week. As always, much love. Have a wonderful week. You're blessed.